An inexpensive cigar named after a TV show with a huge cult following. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, full disclosure here. The first time I tried Black Crown's Sons of Anarchy cigar was several years ago. However, at that time, my expectations for the cigar were low, and I'm talking very low here. But with the inexpensive pricing and the attractive packaging, I could not help but give this cigar a chance. Now, even though I thought this cigar was going to be nothing but a novelty or a gimmick, I really enjoyed this cigar back then. However, my expectations were very low. What I'm curious about today is, with my expectations up here, am I still going to really enjoy this stick? Let's find out. Now, this is a neat looking cigar. The band has the artwork from the famous TV show, but what's really cool about this top band is on the back of it, there's tire tracks. It's just a neat design element added to the overall look of this band. The bottom band has SOA stamped across it, and it just kind of fits the theme of the TV series. The wrapper on this cigar, it's got a rich look to it. It's a dark oily sheen wrapper. Mine has some imperfections, has some lumps, has some veins. The cap looks like it has some issues as well, but overall it's pretty decent looking cigar, and especially for the $5 to $6 price point. Now, the wrapper has a very strong haze smell with a hint of sweetness to it too. The pre-lit draw, it's really not a whole lot there. It's kind of an airy, very light tobacco taste, but I'm not picking up a lot of flavors yet with the pre-lit draw. But we'll go ahead and light this guy up and see what it's all about. Okay, I had to move over here because the sun's getting a little bit too hot over there. But the first few puffs of this cigar had pretty much a very strong tobacco note that just kind of coated the first half of my tongue. There was nothing that was offensive about it, and it's actually a familiar flavor I've tasted with other cigars as well. You know, a couple puffs later, and I still pick up the tobacco notes. They've kind of muted down some, but really no changes yet in this stick. Overall, it's got a good flavor. It's just nothing, nothing drastic at the moment. Starting to work my way through the cigar, I'm picking up a lot of woodsy notes, and there's a little bit of a bitterness to it, but not too much. But I do feel those flavors just kind of coat the first half of my tongue. First retrohale is pretty easy. There's really nothing to it. There's no spices or anything that scrape my sinuses. I do to pick up like maybe a hint of a spice, but it's pretty mild. But for the most part, what I'm picking up is that woodsy flavor. Okay, I'm working my way through this cigar. The burn's not perfect. It's a little crooked, but nothing that really requires any touching up. Overall, the flavors are pretty consistent. I do pick up more of the spice now than just the woodsy notes. And there's a little bit of a sweetness to the spice, but there's also like this perfumey kind of aftertaste to it as well. So it's an okay spice. It's not something that's really all that great, but it does add to the woodsy notes of the cigar. Okay, I'm through the first third, and the flavors really haven't changed much. At times it's the spice, at times it's the woodsy notes. I don't taste that dry bitterness that I tasted early on. It's more of a lighter wood flavor. And I probably enjoy the woodsy notes in the cigar more than I do the spice. But overall, it's a decent stick. There's not a lot of flavor variations at all. It's just mainly woods and this light, and I don't want to call it perfumey, but it's almost like a light, almost a hint of a sweetness to the spice. Now, the retrohale now is a little quite different. The spice is a lot more pronounced. It does scrape through the sinuses, but it still has that offsetting aftertaste to it. It's like I said, I don't want to call it a perfumey aftertaste, but it's not like a sweetness where it's a good tasty sweetness. It's not bad tasting, it's just not a great taste either. Okay, I've gone through the first 2/3 of this stick, and the burn's still crooked, but it's not that bad. It hasn't gotten any worse, hasn't gotten any better, but there's no need to touch it up really. Overall, the flavors are pretty consistent. There's no flavor variations really with the cigar, other than the woodsy notes, and then at times there's spicy notes as well. What I do find interesting about the cigar is if you do set it aside for a few minutes, you get almost like a kind of a woodsy, nutty flavor that kind of sits on your tongue. It's actually a good flavor. But other than that, I just pick up, like I said, woodsy notes at a time, and then at other times I'll pick up more of the spice. The retrohale is still that strong spice, has that weird aftertaste, but it just kind of, it scrapes through the sinuses, but it's not that intense anymore. It was intense through the second third, but right now it's just kind of a slight scrape through the sinuses, and then it kind of passes as quickly as it comes. Okay, this cigar is getting a little warm, so I'm going to wrap up this review, but overall it's a decent smoke. It's not one that's as strong as I remember it, but it's still a decent cigar. And for the price point, it's one I would definitely revisit again. If you haven't had this cigar, I'd just give it a shot. It's not anything that's going to blow you away, but it's definitely something worth trying. And the flavor variations really aren't that dynamic. I mean, it's pretty much just wood and spice, but overall, for a cheap stick, not a bad cigar. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Until next time.